The film opens with a haunting image of endless blue water stretching to the horizon. In the middle of that vast emptiness drifts a lone man, a U.S. Marine named Allison. Clinging to a small inflatable raft, he struggles against the sun, hunger, and exhaustion. His submarine had been sunk during the brutal Pacific campaign, leaving him as the only survivor. For 7 relentless days, Allison drifts aimlessly across the open sea. His lips are cracked, his strength fading. The only thing keeping him alive are a few sips of rainwater caught in his trembling hands. The silence of the ocean becomes unbearable, and despair slowly creeps in until, one miraculous morning, he spots a distant outline on the horizon. With what little energy remains, he paddles toward it, fighting the waves until he reaches a narrow strip of land, an isolated island in the middle of the South Pacific. Collapsing on the sand, Allison breathes heavily, overcome with relief. For now, at least, he is safe. After regaining his strength, Allison begins to explore the island. The air is heavy with silence, broken only by the rustle of palm leaves and the cry of distant seabirds. As he moves inland, he discovers traces of what once was a small settlement, a few thatched huts, tools scattered on the ground, and the faint outline of paths now claimed by the jungle. Everything feels abandoned, lifeless, and eerily still. Following one of the overgrown trails, Allison comes across a weathered wooden church. Its doors hang loose, and the inside is dimly lit by beams of sunlight filtering through the cracks in the walls. He steps cautiously inside, scanning the room, and suddenly freezes. Before him stands a young woman dressed in white, sweeping the dusty floor as if performing a sacred ritual long forgotten. For a moment, both stare at each other in disbelief. Allison can hardly process what he's seeing, a living soul, and a woman, here of all places. She looks equally startled, clutching her broom in fear. Realizing he means no harm, Allison lowers his weapon and offers a reassuring smile. In a trembling yet gentle voice, the woman introduces herself as Sister Angela, a nun from a nearby mission. She, too, had been stranded on the island after Japanese forces began persecuting missionaries in the Fiji region. As they talk, the tension eases. Angela's calm faith contrasts with Allison's hardened military demeanor, yet a mutual sense of relief grows between them. 2 survivors who, against all odds, have found each other in the middle of nowhere. As the day fades into twilight, Sister Angela shares her story. She was part of a small missionary group serving on nearby islands when the Japanese invasion began. Many of her companions were captured or executed. She escaped only by pure chance, carried by a fishing boat that eventually drifted to this island. The local inhabitants had long since fled after their homes were destroyed, leaving the place deserted. For a brief time, Angela was not alone. An elderly priest named Father Philip had been with her. He was her mentor and spiritual guide, but illness and exhaustion claimed his life only 4 days after their arrival. Since then, she has survived on prayer, hope, and what little food she could gather from the abandoned gardens. Listening to her quiet determination, Allison feels both admiration and pity. She seems fragile, yet her faith gives her strength he can't quite understand. In return, he tells her his own story, how his submarine was sunk during combat, how his comrades perished, and how he drifted for days clinging to a raft before reaching the island. Realizing that they share the same fate, 2 souls left behind by war, Allison promises to help her. He plans to rebuild a raft using the rubber float that saved him, hoping to escape or signal a passing ship. Angela, though fearful, agrees to assist. As they begin working side by side, an unexpected friendship starts to form. She finds comfort in his courage and practicality. He, in turn, is drawn to her gentleness and unwavering belief that everything happens by divine design. For the first time in weeks, both feel something that had almost vanished from their hearts, the quiet return of hope. The days slowly fall into rhythm. Together, Allison and Sister Angela learn to make the island their home. They discover old crops left behind by the villagers, bananas, yams, and coconuts, enough to keep them fed for now. With scraps of rope and driftwood, Allison builds tools and teaches Angela the basics of survival: how to fish, gather rainwater, and light a fire safely at night. Angela, though clumsy at first, proves willing and quick to learn. Her laughter fills the quiet spaces between their labor, and even Allison, hardened by war, can't help but smile. Despite their differences, a soldier and a nun, they work in perfect harmony, their companionship deepening each day. One morning, while walking along the shore, Angela spots a sea turtle swimming close to the reef. Allison sees in it a chance to teach her an essential skill: how to hunt for food if needed. With makeshift spears, they wade into the water, chasing the creature through the waves. The struggle is fierce, and at one point, the turtle's strength nearly pulls them both into deeper water. Laughing breathlessly, Allison finally manages to bring it ashore. Though the meat is tough and oily, it becomes a feast, their first real meal in weeks. For Allison, it's a small but vital victory, proof that they can survive. For Angela, it's something more: a humbling lesson in the harsh reality of life outside the safety of faith and prayer. That night, as they sit beside the fire, the sound of the ocean surrounding them, a quiet bond grows stronger between them, one born not of romance, but of shared endurance and mutual respect. Their fragile peace does not last long. One afternoon, as Allison and Angela work near the beach, a low, metallic roar breaks the calm. Looking up, they see a dark shape slicing through the sky, a Japanese reconnaissance plane circling the island. Allison's instincts sharpen instantly. He grabs Angela's arm and leads her into the dense forest, searching for cover. They find refuge in a hidden cave wedged between rocky cliffs, their hearts pounding as the sound of the engine grows louder above. The aircraft makes several passes before finally disappearing toward the horizon. But Allison knows what that means: they've been spotted. His fears are confirmed the next morning. The ground shakes violently as explosions echo across the island. Smoke rises in thick black plumes. The air fills with the scent of fire and ash. When the bombing finally stops, Allison ventures out to see the damage, and what he finds devastates him. The small village has been reduced to rubble, their food stores destroyed, and the raft they worked so hard to build lies in tatters. As if that weren't enough, the nightmare deepens. Before sunset, several Japanese boats appear offshore, unloading troops, crates, and supplies. Within hours, the island transforms into an occupied military outpost. From the safety of their cave, Allison and Angela watch silently as soldiers set up tents and patrol the beaches. The danger is immediate and absolute. One wrong move, one careless sound, and they'll be discovered. That night, Allison whispers a plan. Angela must stay hidden at all costs, while he will find ways to gather food and monitor the enemy. She nods in fearful agreement, clutching her rosary, her faith. Now her only shield. The island that once offered refuge has become a trap, and survival will now depend on silence, patience, and courage. Days turn into a tense routine of silence and shadows. From their cave high above the shore, Allison carefully watches the enemy's movements. The Japanese soldiers patrol the island day and night, their voices echoing through the jungle, their lanterns flickering like restless spirits. To keep them both alive, Allison ventures out after dark, risking his life to collect food and water. Every sound feels like a warning. Once, while gathering fish near the reef, he spots the faint beam of a flashlight sweeping across the beach, a patrol. Without hesitation, he dives into the black water and hides beneath the waves until the danger passes. When he finally returns, soaked and trembling, he carries a small catch in his hands, barely enough to eat. But it's all they have. Angela, weak from hunger, struggles to eat the raw fish. She tries to take a bite, but the taste makes her gag. Exhausted and pale, she lies down in defeat. Watching her suffer fills Allison with helpless frustration. He knows she can't survive much longer like this. That night, he makes a reckless decision. Waiting for darkness to cover the island, he crawls through the jungle toward the enemy camp. Every step must be silent. One snapped twig could mean death. The soldiers sit around fires, eating and laughing, their rifles resting at their sides. When most of them finally sleep, Allison slips into a supply tent. He grabs what he can: cans of food, a bit of rice, even a small comb that catches his eye. It's not a necessity, but something about it reminds him of gentler times and of Angela herself. He takes it as a gift. At dawn, he surprises her with food and, beside a rock near the cave, places the comb among freshly picked flowers. Hiding nearby, he waits for her reaction. When Angela discovers it, she smiles softly, touched by the gesture, but explains she can't use it. Her hair, like all novices, is cut short beneath her veil. Allison shrugs it off, pretending it's nothing. But inside, he feels something change. That simple exchange, a gift that could never be used, says more than words could. It's no longer just survival that keeps him close to her. It's something far more dangerous. Love. In the quiet that follows days of tension, something begins to stir between them, a closeness neither expected, born from shared danger and fragile trust. Allison, who once thought only of survival and escape, now finds himself watching Angela with a kind of reverence. Her calm presence, her steady faith, the gentleness in her voice, all of it disarms him. One evening, while they sit near the mouth of the cave, the sea whispering below, he finally speaks what has been building in his heart. In halting words, he tells her how deeply he admires her, how her courage and kindness have changed him. Then, unable to stop himself, he asks what he's been silently wondering for days, whether she could ever imagine leaving her vows, living as a woman, not as a nun. Angela listens without interrupting. The flickering firelight dances across her face, revealing both compassion and sorrow. When she finally speaks, her voice is soft, but unwavering. She explains that her vows are not temporary promises, but a lifelong devotion, an act of love toward God, not a rejection of others. Allison looks away, hurt but trying to hide it. He wasn't expecting a confession in return. Yet part of him had hoped. Angela senses his pain and reaches out, her hand resting briefly on his arm, a gesture of comfort, not affection. "Please understand," she says gently. "You have been my protector, my friend, my miracle in this place. But my heart belongs elsewhere." The words cut deeper than she realizes. Still, Allison forces a smile. He nods, pretending acceptance, though his eyes betray the quiet storm inside him. For the first time since the war began, he feels powerless, not before the enemy, but before something he cannot fight. Love without hope. That night, as Angela prays silently beside the cave wall, Allison lies awake, staring into the darkness. Outside, the sea crashes endlessly against the rocks, echoing the turmoil inside him. The island wakes to chaos one morning. A thunderous explosion shakes the ground, sending flocks of birds into the smoky sky. From the cliffs, Allison sees the horizon ablaze. American warships have engaged a Japanese fleet just offshore. The roar of cannons and the flash of bombs fill the air, turning the calm ocean into a battlefield. Angela kneels and prays as the ground trembles beneath them, while Allison grips his rifle, torn between awe and fear. Hours pass before the gunfire fades and silence returns. When he dares to look again, he realizes the Japanese have fled, abandoning their camp in haste. For the first time in months, the island is quiet. Together, they venture cautiously from their hiding place. The abandoned camp still smolders, but it's filled with supplies, crates of food, clothing, and even blankets. Allison smiles for the first time in days. "We can live again," he says simply. In that strange lull between war and peace, the two allow themselves a rare moment of joy. They clean the small hut left behind by the soldiers, cook a proper meal, and sing softly to the rhythm of the sea. For a fleeting evening, the island feels almost human again, a place of laughter, warmth, and fragile contentment. As the sun sinks into the ocean, they sit together outside. Allison hums an old tune from home, while Angela mends a torn sleeve in the fading light. The air is still, golden with dusk. He watches her quietly for a long time before speaking. "What will you do," he asks, "when we're rescued? When all this is over?" Her eyes lift from her sewing, calm and untroubled. "I'll return to the convent," she answers simply. "Finish my training. Continue the life I began." The words fall like stones into his chest. He looks down, struggling with what to say, then blurts it out that he wants to marry her, build a life, raise children. He speaks from the heart, raw and honest. Angela listens, deeply moved. Yet her answer doesn't change. With quiet resolve, she tells him that her love is already spoken for a sacred promise to God. She shows him the simple ring on her finger, explaining that it symbolizes her vow of devotion, one that will later be replaced by a golden band when she completes her final rites. Allison says nothing. The look in his eyes is enough a mixture of longing and resignation. He rises, mutters something about checking the shore, and walks away into the twilight. Angela remains seated, staring into the darkening sea, her heart heavy with emotions she cannot name. Though she will never admit it, she, too, feels something stirring within, a quiet sorrow for a love that can never be. The fragile calm of the island is soon shaken by Allison's growing frustration and despair. One evening, while rummaging through the abandoned Japanese supplies, he discovers a bottle of sake. Confused and overwhelmed by his feelings for Angela, a mix of longing, helplessness, and loneliness, he pours a cup and drinks. The alcohol quickly loosens his tongue and his restraint. Words tumble out in a stream of emotion he cannot contain. He speaks of their closeness, of how much he wishes they could be together, and makes gestures that cross boundaries Angela has carefully maintained. Startled and frightened, Angela withdraws. The woman whose faith had anchored the island now steps back, eyes wide with shock. Rain begins to fall in heavy sheets, and, overcome by fear and discomfort, she runs into the storm toward the forest. Allison's realization is instantaneous. He knows he has gone too far. Without a second thought, he chases after her, calling her name through the downpour. But Angela, weak and exhausted, stumbles and collapses beneath the cold, lashing rain. Panic and guilt surge through him. He lifts her into his arms, shielding her from the storm as best he can, and carries her back to the cave. Inside, she trembles uncontrollably from cold and shock. With no other option, Allison strips off his own shirt and wraps it around her, holding her close through the long, restless night. By morning, the stakes have grown even higher. Angela is feverish and frail, and the presence of the Japanese soldiers on the island looms over them like a dark shadow. Allison knows there is no room for error. Survival now depends on courage, quick thinking, and absolute vigilance. The danger intensifies as Japanese soldiers return to the island, methodically searching the forest and coastline. Smoke rises from controlled burns, and the sound of marching feet echoes through the trees. Inside their cave, Angela prays silently, clinging to her faith as Allison prepares for another risky mission. Determined to keep her alive, Allison ventures into the enemy camp once more, this time in search of blankets and supplies. The jungle is alive with danger. Every movement could reveal him. Suddenly, a soldier appears, and Allison is forced to fight for his life. Using quick reflexes, he overpowers the man and hides the body among the rocks. Heart racing, hands shaking. Returning to the cave with blankets, food, and water, Allison tends to Angela. When she awakens, the weight of the night's events overwhelms her, but he explains what happened and apologizes, guilt etched across his face. He understands the fragility of her condition and the thin line they walk between life and death. Moments later, the sky trembles with the roar of American aircraft. Fighter planes sweep over the island, striking Japanese positions. The sound of explosions fills the air, and for the first time in months, hope breaks through the fear. Allison's face lights up. The enemy is retreating, and the war may finally be turning in their favor. Amid the chaos, the bond between Allison and Angela deepens. Angela, grateful for Allison's courage, wants to stay by his side, though she cannot abandon her vows. Allison still hopes he might sway her, but he knows that time is short, and the final test of their endurance and patience has only just begun. The long months of fear and struggle finally come to an end. United States troops land on the island, sweeping through the abandoned Japanese positions. Allison and Angela emerge cautiously from their cave, blinking in the sunlight as the American soldiers secure the area. Relief floods them both after so many days of hiding and surviving. They are finally safe. Angela prepares to leave the island, returning first to Fiji and then onward to her home convent. She embraces Allison briefly, gratitude shining in her eyes. Despite their time together, she will remain true to her spiritual path. her commitment to God unbroken. Allison, in turn, resumes his military duties, continuing the fight in the Pacific until the war draws to a close. Their farewell is quiet but heartfelt, a mixture of admiration, respect, and unspoken longing. Though they cannot be together as lovers, the bond forged in hardship leaves an indelible mark on both of their hearts. Each carries the memory of the other, a reminder that even amidst war's chaos, compassion and humanity can flourish. In the end, the island stands as a witness to their courage, faith, and resilience, and to the quiet, enduring power of love that respects choice and conviction above all. The story of Allison and Angela leaves a lasting lesson. Even in the midst of war, genuine human connections can emerge, yet every individual has convictions that must be honored. True love, the film suggests, is not merely a desire to possess someone, but an acceptance of their choices, values, and commitments. Through their ordeal, Allison learns courage, patience, and selflessness, while Angela's unwavering faith and resilience shine as a testament to devotion and integrity. Their bond, forged in danger, hardship, and quiet moments of hope, illustrates that love can exist without possession, and respect can coexist with longing. The film reminds us that even in the darkest circumstances, compassion, courage, and integrity can prevail. It's a story of survival, sacrifice, and the delicate balance between heart and duty.